There's a new Wonder Woman villain on the scene. Sorta kinda. The 25th issue of Wonder Woman from 2025, from the Tom King Danielson Perry run, which began back in 2023 at the dawn of DC era, has introduced the Matriarch, and they've been building her up for a little while. She's been mentioned prior to this reveal. And while she's still being rolled out time of recording, there's enough going on to be able to begin the discussion about the character. And when I did a short discussing the look and low-key recreating the look, some of you want to know more. So let's do that. Also, I want to do the look again because it's fun and easy. This is a character, by the way, that some of you have dubbed the Queen in Black because you felt that she looked like, no, get it all out of the system now. Now, diving into this character will give us a chance to not just chat about her, but some of the workings of this run, which many have some very strong opinions about. I'm Sasha, this is Casually Comics, and it's new villain time. That's one of my bat signals. That and new romance interest time. Now, I didn't list when this run started for no reason. We needed to build up to this character. The Matriarch is tied to a concept that was started even before this run officially kicked off, and that is the idea of this looming future threat for Wonder Woman in a potential future featuring her daughter Trinity, aka Lizzie Prince. That would be Wonder Woman's daughter for people who have not been keeping up. In the Wonder Woman 800th special issue, where Trinity was introduced, they also introduced the villain, the Sovereign. The Sovereign was revealed in the series proper to be a secret king of the United States, manipulating the happenings behind the scenes. And he was talked up quite a bit pre-run, trying to set him up as this huge deal for Wonder Woman. This matters because despite how an individual may personally feel about Wonder Woman's rogues gallery, the perception that many hold is that it's not the best, that her rogues gallery could use some bolstering. And one definite reality is there is a lot of untapped and unmined potential with those who do exist. And while it's in no means unique to Wonder Woman, there does seem to be a bit more of a push in her area to create new villains. So the Sovereign was meant to be a big one. There was talk of him being Wonder Woman's Joker. For oft times, her villains are compared to other Trinity members who have more recognizable rogues galleries. For example, when Veronica Cale was first rolled out decades ago, she was presented as Wonder Woman's Lex Luthor. I have a quote about this, 2023 quote time. This is from Tom King discussing the Sovereign. Wonder Woman is extremely powerful. She's the greatest warrior in the world of warriors. She's myth in flesh. This is not someone you can defeat with a big monster or a shiny rock. The new villain we're introducing in Wonder Woman #1, a villain on par with Lex Luthor or the Joker, is well aware of this reality. He has a plan to strike at the heart of our hero. How Wonder Woman responds, how she takes this incredible blow and keeps fighting is the story of this book. That's also very important because this story is ongoing. We are still seeing the Sovereign at points telling the same story that he began in Wonder Woman 800, which I think will give you an indication as to some of the pacing. Throughout this run, we've seen manipulations from the Sovereign impacting Diana in the present, as well as flash forwards to a dark future, which sometimes will feature the Sovereign still telling Trinity the story that he began in 2023. And time for recording the big event is still being worked towards, but it seems to be about to culminate. Another element that was set up at the start of this run was the rogue Amazon Emily. Her actions and the subsequent quest to find her are what starts off the anti-Amazon sentiment and Wonder Woman's outlaw status. All of these things are relevant because the Matriarch, or Lissa, I'm gonna say Lissa, but it could be Lisa, it could be Lysa, we could say it so many ways, is Emily's daughter, and time of recording seemingly revealed is the Sovereign's daughter as well. So the Matriarch is being set up as a generational villain for Wonder Woman, and her daughter in the lead up to the Wonder War. Now, why just in general as a concept this may or may not land with people can vary, and a lot of it will depend upon how one feels about this run, not just in general, but the specific handling of this flash forward element. The pacing of this unfolding future storyline has been in general quite slow, and for some it's been difficult to grasp onto and get excited about as a result. And just in general, some have a hard time with potential futures because there's a bit of a sense of will it end up mattering in the long run. Some have the idea that it simply won't matter and they're waiting to see whether it does or not before they invest time in it. Others may feel it's a sneaky way to kind of brute force Trinity into having to remain in the mainline canon. Although in general, thanks to side stories, some reordering of how she was introduced and the like, there has been a general warming to Trinity in some corners and not in others. Sidebar, there's been some pairing of her with Jason Todd over in the Trinity miniseries. My daughter noped out at that point. No romance for her. So what we have firstly is the Matriarch being tied to this future timeline that people have varying degrees of attachment to. On top of that, for those who may be invested and have been reading concurrently, so month to month release, the reveal of the future as mentioned has been slow to the point of at times glacial. And unless one is really invested in the idea, in the case of which one is, it may feel more like your standard A-B plot, with the B just being sprinkled in here and there, which is a structure many may be familiar with, it's just adding in a non-linear element, so that flow for them may build the the excitement and the anticipation. However, if that is not the case, it may be difficult to maintain the emotional investment and stakes. The Sovereign may end up feeling less like a huge threat, and more like he's now being cast aside for something new without ever having fully come to fruition. Even the Emily plot feels abruptly cut off with her brutal on-panel murder in issue 27, which despite its brutality is moved on from in such a way, in the way that it's barely addressed in the coming issues, that it almost made me feel like she hadn't actually died, because you never know with comic books. Rule number 1, trust no one. They could be back next week. That's a general pacing thing though. There are certain moments that will be these big showstopper splash pages and then they'll just be moved on from. The same thing happened when Lizzie was kidnapped during the Mouseman arc, and then it's just not fully addressed. They mention it, but you don't get to see the type of reaction one would expect from Wonder Woman in the moment. Because of the pacing of this run, it can be more difficult for the emotional moments to land depending upon the gap between them. That may end up being different in the trades, depending upon how you're reading, let me know. However, I also find the trades to be paced similarly, but that may just be me. As for Emily's fate, hopefully it will play a larger role later on. Now with her being the Matriarch's mother, it would not be surprising if it did so. But as for what we know now, what have we seen in time of recording? What are we working with? We see her revealed as an adult in flash forwards during the Mouseman arc. Now, Mouseman was originally a Silver Age villain created by Robert Kanigher and Ross Andru. He was mouse-sized, he wore a mouse costume, he could control mice, he was very Silver Age. He didn't appear too many times. Kanigher would often try and create villains, and very few of them had staying power. Now, based on the description I just told you, you know that means that in this series, he was reimagined as a brutal dictator who tortures people with his mice, using them to burrow into people's organs. It says giant mutant mice that eat people. He also bathes in mice. Try to update Silver Age villains without making them edgy challenge. Impossible. That's a story for another time, because education aside, there are some interesting elements to the Mouseman storyline. Now, while that's going on, we're seeing the flash forwards, starting off with the death of superheroes, and we kick it off with Batman 20 years from now. Pay attention to that, because the times of the future, it's not always going to be specific, and that may end up mattering. Bruce Wayne, you have been found guilty by the Matriarch of high treason against the true gods of Olympus, sentenced to death by hanging. Do you have any final words?
Wonder Woman knows.
My husband's busy. You're getting Christian Bale voice today. We see Martian Manhunter burnt at the stake, Green Arrow speared. 2025 was a rough year for Ollie. Maybe it's gonna continue into 2026, we'll see. Hawkman goes out with a Grolix that left me with some questions. You think you've won? You haven't won, you ignorant. The Wonder War isn't over. Not until Wonder Woman. He's pushed off without his wings. Hawkman goes splat. I'm pretty sure Aquaman is taken out with his own hand. And a bunch of them are mentioning Wonder Woman and this impending Wonder War. So you're meant to have questions as to how did we come to this?
Ask me if I have hope.
It's time. On your knees.
Despite all your Matriarch has done in this war, ask me.
Knees. Now.
Fine, don't ask. But don't mind if I answer in just 2 words. Wonder Woman.
All of this is being intercut with Wonder Woman making her way across Mouseman's Isle. In the present, she's drawing closer and closer to Emily and her baby, and she witnesses the horrors of Mouseman's Island and how crushed under his heel and giant mice the people are. I bow before you, Lissa, daughter of Emily of the Amazons, heir to the Sovereign of America, born on the Isle of Mice, raised on the Isle of Paradise, Queen of the States United, Queen of Themyscira, and now my Majesty, my Matriarch, Queen of all. No. Do you think they gave her enough titles and hype in that build-up? Assigning her all of that is already gonna send some people off in the direction of it's too much. But those build-up panels brings everything together when you see the final reveal of Emily and her baby, foreshadowing that this baby is gonna grow up to become something terrible. Also, she's wearing a version of Wonder Woman's breastplate. I don't think I didn't notice. And I see you Legion ring and Green Lantern ring, both rings. Now this kind of build of, look, she's taken out all these heroes. Look, she has all of this power. It's meant to evoke the sense of truly this is a dire threat. A threat like you've never seen, and this can be hard to pull off because you're pushing against people's attachment to those aforementioned characters and their knowledge of their power levels. And to come out the gate with a character people have never seen and have her at that level, for some to come across as trying to push her too hard. Pushing to the point where the intimidation factor that's meant to be conveyed is lost. Well, for those who it does resonate, that may be what they receive. And they may think, finally, a foe worthy of Wonder Woman. This is what they've been doing since they've been mentioning the Matriarch, however. Such That's just in issue 19 with all the dead Wonder Girls. And Wonder Woman, seemingly. You're meant to have a bit of a shocked reaction at this look at this baby, an ominous sense of look what she'll become. However, there's less impact when you haven't really seen the baby. Had this baby been around for longer, and then in concurrence with these flash forwards being more spread out in the reveal, there would be more time to form a sense of attachment to the infant, and then hence to be upset or surprised by the reveal. Here, the attachment is meant to come because we have the investment with Emily and are meant to be invested in the future plot in general. And if one is, this does continue that build. However, I do imagine someone just coming in on issue 25 and look at this baby. Well, what can I say? I do like an evil baby. No evil baby is as good as the psychic baby from the 4400 though. As it stands, the end of 25 is meant to be a things are escalating and that you're seeing the threads come together kind of moment. The timelines are coalescing. The series will continue this method of building up the character. They're gonna have more flash forwards of her just dominating everyone around her. We don't see her as an adult in 26 or 27. In fact, she's not in 26 at all. Those issues are divided between the past and present of the Isle itself and seeing the rise of Mouseman. We see her again in 28 in a tournament setting, where we're given more of a sense of the state of the world through an announcer. And now it's years from now. We don't have that 20 anymore. It's floating. Ladies and gentlemen, we were born in hell. Crime and blasphemy poisoning our children, the strong forced their knees to lick the feet of the weak. They told us it was good, it was just, it was right. We were all equal in the eyes of our Creator. They lied to us as they shamed us. They robbed us of our right to be who we slaved to be, and they thought it would last forever. And maybe so did we. But the Matriarch knew better. Okay, look, I like the uniform. Yes, it's reminiscent of some other designs, but I think it's a design that works. I guess I'm weak to goth mommy designs. As for what she's doing, it's a gladiatorial style showcase where she is just mowing down classic Wonder Woman villains. Starting off with Angleman. So sorry, Angleman. Today, for you, her beloved subjects. For you, her adored followers. For you, the free people of her kingdom. Our Matriarch will repeat that incredible, unprecedented feat. Where is this? I was at the house, then they took me and dressed me up, and I don't... Now, of course, we don't have all the info. Maybe this isn't actual Angleman. They do use the word recreation. But as it stands time of recording, it certainly seems as though we just witnessed the beatdown of classic Wonder Woman villains by this new one, in a sequence that has their power level just escalate. Which is meant as the narration goes on to indicate how powerful the Matriarch is, that she can take on foes that Wonder Woman had trouble with ease. A continuation of those defeats that we saw in 25. Mileage can vary for this, not just for the already mentioned reasons, but because some feel that Wonder Woman's Rogues Gallery is owed just more respect in general. So for those who feel that way, such a display may not endear them to this character. Whether these end up being her actual villains or not, it just may come across kind of as though the idea of them is being disrespected, even though they have been used in this run. And for some, it may come across as too much and elicit a trying too hard or a Mary Sue type response. Although for some, it may just make them want to see her defeated all the more, and that is likely part of the intended goal. What this is also meant to show is that the Matriarch is singularly focused on hurting Wonder Woman. You can see that in some of the dialogue between her and the villains, such as when she's discussing things with Silver Swan. Not really, she doesn't talk too much. And here, ladies and gentlemen, we have the majestic Silver Swan. All you do is try to hurt her. My woman. She's still my Wonder Woman. Here, ladies and gentlemen, we had the Silver Swan. Because these are Diana's foes, it's likely we're still dealing mostly with her, but there is also some floating of the idea of Trinity becoming Wonder Woman in this potential future, so there's a layer of that there too. We also just see her skewer Dr. Psycho. And poor nefarious Dr. Psycho, who so many times proved his worth against the Amazon princess, lasts mere seconds in the ring with our American queen. I really have to fight to not say queen the meme way. McQuinn. It's been years and that just lives in my mind. The announcing over the fights reminds me a lot of Black Canary Best of the Best, which King also wrote. That inside the flashes forwards and flashbacks in between the fight. Also, the Matriarch can wield a Green Lantern ring, but we can't harp on that too much. Pretty much anyone can these days. You can buy Will cheap at the store, apparently. You don't even need to know what it is. Yes, we got there. No, I'll never let it go. It's one of my favorite Hal Jordan memes, up there with "We're the same, you and I," and "Will you co-sign my lease?" Also, yes, I know, there is an explanation as to the supposed intended philosophy behind that line, but that doesn't stop them from being amusing in the context of Hal's overall history and expectations surrounding him. Works don't exist in a vacuum, and neither does the Matriarch. Remember the Grand Wonder Woman? Remember how she had to struggle? Let me ask you, your eyes are open. Do you see any struggle here? Now, it must be noted that from the composition of this future as it seems to stand, the showcase makes sense. It's clearly to reaffirm and reassert the Matriarch's dominance and her status quo, to push forward the narrative that she's more powerful than Wonder Woman, while also reinforcing the idea that she clearly has a lot of beef with her. However, it's pulling double duty as an extended character introduction. And so from the side of it being an intro for the audience, that can drag a little bit. The point is made, but then it's extended and remade over and over. And the longer it goes on, the more time it gives readers to question. Also, here she is taking out Grail. And there it is. Had you any doubts, my friends? Our queen still stands as a god falls. Ladies and gentlemen, you once saw Wonder Woman face her greatest enemies and suffer humiliating defeat. Today, you have seen our sovereign take on those same 5 foes and triumph. She is the glory. She is the power. She is the word. She is the answer. She is our matriarch. And that's the matriarch, time of recording, seemingly unstoppable big bad. Now, the time of recording usage here is incredibly important because there are some issues coming with her within the next few months. And they could change things, and you could easily recontextualize a lot of this. And with just a few tweaks, it would land entirely differently. For example, if all these people are actors / prisoners forced into this, it's an entirely different vibe because there's more manipulation in there and more trickery. Plus, you've got the harming of innocents who were skewered. You can also go clones. It's been years since good clones. The thing is, there's a lot of potential for an interesting character here. The idea of a generational villain for a character as long-lived as Wonder Woman has some intrigue. The chance to link her and parallel her to Trinity is also a strong concept. It's in the gaps where a lot of interesting development for the matriarch lies. How did she come to hate Wonder Woman? And there is the chance it could be super compelling. However, we'll have to brush up against the look out for the strongest thing ever intro, which in some ways feels almost like a deliberate contrast to the slower rollout of the Sovereign. And if that's the case, it veers a bit too much the other way. However, it must be stated that things do tend to move very slowly in this run, so people may appreciate the increase in pace, but perhaps not the mowing down of foes. Again, mileage will vary. There's also the potential future element of it all, which will be a factor for some as to how invested they are in the happenings. To me, this character feels like a lot of it is going to depend upon the payoff, because this entire run in general feels as if it is building to one climactic moment and just taking its time to get there. So the matriarch feels like she's built into the overall doom that they've been attempting to build towards since the beginning of the run. Creating a new villain for a future threat to me makes a lot of sense, though I know some may have preferred if they had pulled from her existing rogues gallery, but you don't get IP rights that way most of the time. I know they did some finagling for Guy Gardner. Now for the matriarch, we're in wait and see territory again, which I don't mind. I'll wait and see. It could be amazing. It could fall on its face. It could be mid. We have so many options. I want to see where it goes because I just like tracking new character development. I find it fascinating. As for here, if the backstory is compelling, we may come back. If it's not, we may still come back. It depends where my whims are taking me. Maybe I'll just want to wear this look again. I don't know. In general, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this run. Do you want a Mouse Man update? It's been really interesting reading this at the same time as Absolute Wonder Woman because they just feel so different in terms of the presentation of Diana. But even before starting Absolute Wonder Woman, this Diana felt so cold and removed to me. Even though they insert emotional moments and you see her cry and the like, there's just something cold and removed about her. She comes across as a bit remote. However, despite that, there are some moments I've really liked. And of course, that's just my opinion. You may have an entirely different one. Maybe this is your favorite run. I want to hear all your thoughts. Tell me things. Tell me what you're thinking about the matriarch. Insert your jokes about the fact that she's basically named Mommy. Thanks so much as always for taking this time to spend discussing comics with me. I always appreciate it. There will be more videos coming soon. Please do all YouTube things. Like, share, comment, subscribe, and I will see you there in the future. Bye-bye.